Hello, everyone. OK, it works. So my name is Moiz, and I'm going to present today testing the testing machine. So a little bit about me. I studied at University of Kansas. Anybody from Rock Chalk Jayhawk? Yeah. And I work as a software engineer at Sauce Labs, and I work at with the Appium team, and I'm a core committer there. So it was a very nice talk by Remy. He actually said a lot of challenges that even we face, and he put it very rightly there that end-to-end testing is not impossible, but it's hard. But it's our job to make it a little easier for you guys to write your test. And we at Appium believe that it should be really easy, at least to write end-to-end tests, and that's what our job is. So today, I'm going to present about how the project has been from past 2 years and how it has evolved, where it is right now and where we intend it to go, and what's the future of Appium. I'm going to speak a little bit about Appium 1.5. We are currently at 1.4.10, and we have few major changes coming up in 1.5. And then I'm going to also speak about what are the challenges in any large collaborative project. So that is essentially any software development project where we have many committers. Also, Appium has like 160 committers, and we want to encourage more commits. So that involves a lot of challenges in any large collaborative project. One of them is end-to-end testing. And what are the strategies and solutions we have tried to apply, and in future, we'll be continuing that. And I'll show a little bit about how our pipeline is currently. And also, I had a live demo, but I would show how we want to test everything in Appium so that Appium is bug-free. And that means you can find bugs in your application. And I would share a few lessons that we learned over the process of rewriting Appium. So what is Appium? Appium is like Selenium for mobile, and it is used for testing your Android applications and iOS application. Currently, we have around 5,715 commits, and my favorite part is we have like 2,500 stars on GitHub, and it's increasing daily. And we have about 150 contributors there and 96 releases. So that means that we are releasing quickly, and we are catching up, and probably we are leading even so that you can test your applications. So historically, Appium was a very small, it was not a small project, but it grew organically. So there were more committers, there were more contributors who came in, added code. We at Sauce Labs always tried to be like with the curve, having all the latest OS in Android and iOS. And the code grew organically. But the test didn't grow organically, right? Because we had end-to-end tests always, but we had very few unit tests. So this was a concern when we were discussing about rewriting Appium, that we need to have awesome test coverage. And toolchain maturity also was not there when we started, because all the emulators and simulators were new. We didn't have enough infrastructure to set up CI. We had infrastructure, but we didn't have enough tools that we could use open source, right, which should be open for Appium. And it was a big monolithic architecture. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm going to look at too. And as we grew, there was a lot of technical debt that we needed to solve. And there was a manual gate watching. This is whenever somebody raised a pull request. There were humans who were looking at the code and trying to figure out, OK, nothing would break. There would be no regressions. This code looks good to me. But looks good to me is not enough. We need to test it. We need to be definitive if the thing works. And it took a long time to run E2E tests. So whenever there was a bug, we added a test. But to run those tests, to run an E2E and complete suite, it took like 3 hours, right? And we didn't have that much time before merging the code. So we used to merge the code and then run E2E tests, like most of the software projects. But we're going to change this. So what's the present? So we did an overhaul. We redid the architecture in 1.5. Presently, 1.5 is in beta for developers, but it will be soon out. We are there almost. So, any JavaScript fans here? Yeah. So 1. Okay. You will be fan now after I show what is ES 2015. So IBM is one of the big projects that have adopted ES 2015, early adopters, and we are seeing the benefits of there. So we go cutting edge. We were modern already, so we went cutting edge. We were using Node.js, but now we went modular, right? So now Appium is divided into very small modules, and each modules would be tested. So yeah, this was one of our aims when we redid architecture, that we wanted to add more tests and more automated tests. So if a developer, if a committer didn't want to run all the unit tests and E2E tests, no problem, we would run it anyways, right, before merging it. And also we wanted to keep Appium awesome. We want to be the thought leaders. We want to be there, like be the first ones to show how E2E tests should be done and should be trusted testing machines. So we want to reduce the number of bugs that we have in Appium. We want to extend it very often as new drivers come, as underneath technology where Google or iOS changes. So we want to change quickly too, so that you don't have to go through the pain and you can continue using Appium and trust it. So 2015, right? It's one of the biggest advantage that I see is promises over there. And this is one of the code snippets that I was browsing through last night. And this is the earlier version of Appium. And it has like 3 callbacks. There is also like the callback hell is right there. Like it would take around 10 to 15 minutes to figure out what this function does. But what this function is actually doing is very simple. In 2015, it's more intuitive to read. So what it's doing is, it is just trying to get all the emulators that are running on your system. If it matches, it would just return, or else it would throw an error. So that's what it is doing. But in the earlier code, it's so hard to read. So one of our also objective is to make it easy to read, right? The code is easy to read. That means if there's a bug, you can go and fix it, right? So that's one thing that E0, ES 2015, the most exciting feature that I see is await. So async and await. So there's no more callback thing. So you can just await if there was a callback earlier. And if promise is resolved, it just returns. So that's the biggest advantage that I see of using ES7. So then we wanted to go modular, right? So Appium earlier had the entire code base in one big code base. And so this is the current master. So this is not 1.5. We are going to change it when we release to 1.5. So this is a big code base. Each devices folder there has Android code, iOS code, Firefox code. Then server has the Node JSON protocol and all the server. So Appium is just a web server, right? So it has all the controller and the server parts in the Appium server. Now this is 1.5. This is all 1.5 is. But where is everything else? So this is a very small module. So everything else is. So I was just trying to use this. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. So this is Appium driver, right? So Appium driver then uses Appium Express and mobile JSON wire protocol, Appium Bootstrap, or these are all small modules that Appium Android driver uses. And now Appium is a project with a lot of modules. So our intention here is that if each module is tested really well, we can extend it, we can release quicker, and it takes less time to test. So that's one of our goals that we want to achieve. So yeah, because if internet didn't work, I had this. So what are the challenges? Right now if we tried to solve one problem and now we have a lot of small modules, we lose the monolithic architecture. That means we also lose the simplicity, right? Because now there's a lot of modules talking to each other. So it's still JavaScript, right? Still there are things like you can just have variables which you don't use. You can have variables in the code base that can be used duplicated. So that's one challenge. There are more modules means more complexity. And our world keeps changing. That means iOS 9 is released. Android has got new UI Automator 2. They have a Droid driver. So our world keeps changing very quickly. So that is one challenge. Another challenge is with 160 contributors, a lot of contributors, we need to maintain really high quality code base. That means we would have lesser bugs, and that means you can find your bugs. And we also want to encourage more contributions. That means the code should be easy to read. So how did we fix it, or how are we trying to fix it? So one way is to have lints. Those are like two lints library that we use that would just catch if you have any lint errors that would prevent our styling errors. And then we had more, this time this was a conscious effort that we are going to add a lot of unit tests. Unit tests are quicker to run. Tests your unit to what it does. And when you are writing unit test, if you are doing TDD, you're writing unit tests and you're thinking, okay, is this what I want to achieve from this unit, right? So this was one thing. So if we use gulp, and if you're just using gulp and if you just watch it, if you're making a unit test fail or you're not doing correct styling, it would not even let you commit, right? And of course, E2E tests. This conference is all about functional testing. So we have a lot of functional tests added. Module validation. So modules, we need to, it's like a contract and it needs to oblige to the contract, right? So if we have more E2E tests, that would prove that we have a correct module and it would do what it is supposed to do. So all the E2E tests would also eventually do your module validation. But okay, now we have tests, we have unit tests, we have E2E tests, but are we enforcing it? Are we making each developer run all the tests? So if you have all the tests in the world, but you don't run it, it's equal to 0 tests, right? So earlier, this was the model that we were using. That's like, okay, you raise a pull request, we merge the code, we test the code after we merge the code. And if tests fail, we either have to revert it or fix it. Now, if you don't know the developer, he doesn't work in your team, it's really hard to catch hold of him, right? So what did we do? So now, on each pull request, we first cut out a branch out of that pull request, run all your E2E tests, run all the code coverage, run end-to-end tests on Sauce. We use Jenkins, but then it spins up a Sauce VM and it runs all your tests on your VM on an Android or iOS device. And if all the tests are fine, we get all the green checks, that means that we can go forward and merge your code. So this is like being very sure that you have not introduced regression. And if you have not written the test, probably the merge, whoever is merging the core contributor would ask you to write tests. So there are no more rollbacks, no more revert commits. So that's the awesome part. So I wanted to do a live demo, but I'm not going to do it because it's very dangerous. So yeah, it never works, right? So I last night said, okay, let's write does this work, right? So I wrote I committed something. I committed this file change that's like, if you wanted to enable IME, this Appium ADB is a small, it's a wrapper over ADB, and it does like launching your device, getting the hold of device, or having input method. So this method is a DB shell, and it tries to enable input method, whatever you ask it to be. And if you see here, so when somebody raises a pull request, it automatically kicks off unit tests and end-to-end tests. So now we can go ahead and see, okay, what failed. So we already had a unit test that would be like, okay, these are the shell arguments that you should actually be passing. And if somebody changed it by mistake, it would be first caught at the unit test level. And I also had a unit, we also run unit tests here so that you don't have to run even E2E tests, but I disabled it for the purpose of demo. So it ran all the E2E tests, and it said, okay, when I tried to enable or disable IME, I couldn't do it. That's what a functional test said. That means nobody can introduce bugs like this, and it can be really hard to fix sometimes when you use something like reflections in Java and Android Bootstrap. I've spent one day to find a difference between Boolean, that's capital B and small b. So yeah, it takes more time to fix it. So okay, does this actually even pass? Right, it passes too. So I was adding more tests because our test coverage is really low right now. It's like 60% for this module. Our target is to get at like 80 or 90% for each of the modules. So it passes on the Travis CI. Then we do the code coverage. It's really low right now. It's in red. It's like 60%, but we are in process of writing it. So we'd get there. We'll get at 80% or 90% or even 100. And then we also run the E2E tests, and they all pass. It fails, so probably this is the wrong one. Yeah, or else you can just trust me that it passes, or we can trust the machine it passes. So all the E2E tests pass too. So yeah, if the browser gave up, I had the backup. So yeah, to conclude, we want to make Appium awesome. We want to show how you can do all your end-to-end testing with, if Appium works, then your tests would work. So we want to write more tests. We want to test as often as we can. And that's the lesson we learned. So hopefully Appium would be a really awesome project from 1.5. It is already awesome, but it would get more awesome. And yeah, happy testing. So that's about my presentation. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So how do you decide, just from a project standpoint, how do you guys decide, what's going to go into the next release? I'm sure you get lots of requests or, code bits on different improvements.
Yep.
Sort of from a project standpoint, what's the decision-making process for how releases are started?
So presently, Jonathan leads the project, and the question is, how do we decide what features gets in and what codes goes into the next release? We have a core committee, and the core committee looks at all. So whenever somebody raises an issue, that issue can be either a feature request or a bug fix, right? Or request to bug fix. So we decide what are the important bugs, and we want to keep the release cycles short. So we decide on what are the important bugs and what are like blocking for issues for our users, and then we see what resources we have. And we want to keep release cycles short, so maybe like what we can fix till like next 3 weeks, and then we prioritize that way. Any other questions? Okay, I assume everybody's hungry, so we can break for lunch. Thank you so much.